All right, everybody, we've got Dr. Jeff Langmaid on our show today. That's how you pronounce your last name, right?
Absolutely correct.
All right. Just want to make sure I got it right. Jeff Langmaid, the evidence-based chiropractor, one of the most downloaded chiropractic podcasts on the internet today. He's been creating all kinds of AI developing tools for marketing. You did marketing chiropractic to medical doctors in the payday practice. I mean, you have been a trendsetter and a leader for over a decade now, at least in the online space at a minimum,
Well,
right?
I appreciate that. I say when I started, I had hair up here and this was not gray. So some of this is a war of attrition. I've been doing it a while at this point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, man, I mean, your reach in our community, and not just chiropractic, but in healthcare, has just been so pivotal for the growth of not only our profession, but how we can heal people. And I'm so excited today to be able to really go deep. I mean, you've got how many podcasts are you at now?
Probably 550 or something like that.
Yeah, incredible amount. I mean, so my goal today is to be able to talk about things that maybe go a little bit deeper. I know, you probably have a chiropractic story. You've probably told it 8 million times. You've got things that are going on in the world right now that you're working towards. And I'd love to know how, your vision is for the future, and just kind of go deep with you. So, I mean, would you mind just giving us like a quick little, this is my chiropractic story? Because I know some of my audience, they're the public, chiropractic students, and other docs. So
yeah, I'm happy to, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you reached out and we connected on the phone and you invited me on, and I'm super happy to be here, and I'm happy to be an open book as far as that goes. So, in terms of my chiropractic story, some of it's probably pretty common, some of it's probably pretty uncommon, and really, it started when I'll give the linear version, which is my father had a back injury when I was in college. I always wanted to be in healthcare. I thought I wanted to be a knee surgeon, doing like endoscopic knee surgery. As the story goes, I did a presentation on that in fifth grade. Yes, that means you're a super
really,
geek if you're doing a presentation on endoscopic knee surgery in fifth grade. But as time wore on and I was getting, closer, I was in college, and I'm like, man, staring down like a 5 to 8 millimeter tube for the rest of my life is not particularly inspiring.
right.
My father has a low back injury, classic, kind of disc injury, goes to a chiropractor in town where I grew up, gets relief and gets well, and then is like, you got to meet this guy. Like when I came back for Christmas break from college, I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go in and meet that doctor. His name's Dr. Tim Warren in Warwick, Rhode Island. He is now retired, but Tim was outgoing guy, classic chiropractor, sole provider, been in practice 20 years, 15, 20 years at that point in time, super like jazzed up, etc. He also was the alumni president for Palmer College in Rhode Island. So within 5 minutes of meeting him, he's like, oh, you should be a chiropractor. Let me get you on literally picks up the phone, not cell phone. It makes him seem real old. Picks up the phone off the wall, calls his, rep or whatever you want to say at Palmer, and is like, you got to send information. Why don't you give him your address, etc. So that's really how it started. I ended up going to work for Dr. Warren once I graduated school when he was climbing Mount Everest. So that's a whole nother part of the story. But then to kind of cycle back briefly, come to find out, my great grandfather was a chiropractor. He went to Palmer in the 20s when BJ was teaching.
Okay. Wow.
And I have a bunch of like artifacts as well from him now over time. So there's like a broken multi-generational lineage, but that was discovered kind of after I was like, oh, maybe I want to do this. And then my parents are like, oh, by the way, like, how come I'm not? Yeah. But he lived across the country. I never saw him. He was my great grandfather. He had passed before I was born. But anyhow, that's the short version. I'm happy to go into any rabbit holes.
it came full circle back.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Well
Well,
said.
so I'm curious. I mean, where did endoscopic knee surgery come from? I mean, a fifth grader, did your parents have a knee problem, or did you, or what's that about?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. That's a really good question. I have no concept. I think I just was like, I want to be a doctor, air quotes. I was like, I want to be in healthcare. I want to be a doctor. At the time, that seemed like super cutting edge. So
Yeah.
that was like, oh, this seems cool. And it's like semi related to athletics. And I still snowboard all the time and do stuff like that. But growing up, I was like basketball, but I was like the 4 season, 4 sport,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
sports all the time kind of kid. So I think it was really, I want to be a doctor. I want to be in healthcare. It seemed sporting related. So it
Yeah.
seemed like, oh, that would be like super, super cool. So that's probably how it came together.
That's amazing, man. What were your parents like in healthcare or something like that? Or you just
Yeah,
knew you always wanted
my
to
mom
help
was
people?
a lunch lady for 30 years, and my dad worked doing like materials at a submarine construction site. So
Crazy.
yeah, just forklifts, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. Okay. Well, you just knew it. You had it in you. Maybe
That's
that's your
right.
great grandfather coming through you, huh? He's like, not another generation is going to skip chiropractic. And then when you're like, I'm going to do endoscopic knee surgery, he's like, what?
I've always been a little,
That's
I've
funny.
always been a little different. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. Okay, cool. So now I'd love to hear what your definition of the evidence-based chiropractor is.
Yeah. So when I when I picked that name as like the brand, it had like zero connotation associated with it. I remember literally, I wish I could remember the other things I had on the list, but I had like a list of like 5 or 6 names where I'm like, oh, these seem cool. Let me see if the URLs are available. And
Right,
and
right,
like they
right.
were, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, so the irony today is like when I chose that name as sort of a brand and sort of a personal brand, it was really, probably in, I don't know, 2010 or something. So I probably wasn't paying attention. But as far as I'm concerned at that time, I'd never even heard the term like evidence-based medicine or chiropractic, or
Yeah,
like, that was not even on my radar. So there was like no weird agenda with it whatsoever. It just
yeah,
was like, oh, that seems like I'm probably going to review some research. Okay. Well, that having that in the title is not really compelling. So it just was like, bluntly, it was like marketing. Like I just was like,
yeah,
okay, what's like what seems to be a compelling title. Now
yeah,
in hindsight, I'm like, oh my gosh, the URL is so long. My email address, jeff@theevidencebasedchiropractor.com, is so it's fraught with complication of mistyping it. I'm like, that was
yeah,
actually
yeah,
maybe not a great choice.
yeah,
But to answer your question directly, what it means to me is, I mean, the brand represents, in my opinion, the promotion of chiropractic. So, and what does that mean? That means that in some respects, I'll say the totality of chiropractic. Now, I don't have shareholders, so it's through my lens. I don't have to be,
yeah,
it's whatever I want it to be,
yeah,
because I don't have to, answer to anybody else regarding that. But
yeah,
to me, it's really always been a platform to promote chiropractors and chiropractic, and really to be able to highlight the best of what we do. And if I just say it bluntly, it's never been about saying one thing is right or wrong or disparaging any component of chiropractic. I have my own personal beliefs about different aspects, which I'm happy to talk about. But
yeah,
really, the brand itself has been just for the promotion of chiropractic, and to be able to, I'll say, because it's mostly B2B, not B2C, mostly
right.
about what can we do to help chiropractors help more people and be more successful in a way that's congruent with who I am, what my skills are, and what I'm seeing out there in the marketplace.
For sure. So now the evidence-based chiropractor, when we go to your website, you see that you have not only information to help people learn and deepen their understanding, as you're saying, of these different aspects of chiropractic, but you're also like a business. Would you say like a practice management, or just like a marketing specifically? I mean, you've got some tools now that are definitely of this era. So what is your focus with the evidence-based chiropractor? And I'm not sure if do you practice still?
Yeah, good question. So,
Yeah.
and I think it probably ties into a little bit of a deeper story. So the focus of the evidence-based chiropractor is really, at this point, it's kind of evolved to my personal brand. So there are some products and services. We have some posters, some t-shirts, some postcards, some tools and resources. And really, we have a flagship, service that's about building, MD Connection, about building referrals with other healthcare providers. We say MD for SEO search, but it could be MD, DO, midwife, doula. It's any other healthcare provider. So we do have a referral program that just helps docs based upon my experience working within various, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and orthopedic groups, understanding what other providers are looking for, and bluntly just having to do it myself. I had to build internal referrals in that manner. So that was really a great learning experience, and it's the MD referral program really just crystallizes and distills down what are the lessons I learned there? What are the levers that a doc can pull, and how can they apply it in a way that's like not about changing who they are, but about highlighting who they are and finding those, as I like to say, dance partners in their community. So it's a pretty niche product. It's not really, I'll say, it's not, when we look at the smart chiropractor side, that's where we really have a lot of clients. We have a lot of members using the marketing services, which I'm happy to dive into on that side of the house. But regarding, so that's really evidence-based chiropractor in a nutshell. And the podcast is probably where most docs, if they've heard of me or the brand, would have heard of it. I don't actively practice today. I was in, I guess the short version would be, after graduating school, I went to practice for that doctor, Dr. Warren, in Warwick, Rhode Island. When he went to climb Everest, I was there for like 6 months or so. He was a sole, he wasn't looking to add an associate. It was really to have true coverage. It was a one doc show. So I took, graduated in December. For anybody that knows, probably I did not at the time. Everest climbing season is March to May. So I learned from him January, February. He left in March. I took over the practice March, April, May, came back in May. And then in August, I went out and started my own practice. That was in Providence, Rhode Island, which is kind of where I grew up. So I had my own practice, boutique, cash only, downtown for 5-6 years. And then I would say my life took the shift of where it is today, which is came back down to Tampa, Florida, which is where I went to school. And I joined the first orthopedic group that I practiced in. That's Florida Orthopedic Institute. They're still around. They're like massive. And at the time, they were still relatively small and hadn't been bought by private equity. So I went in as an employed physician. At the time, it was like 50 surgeons, 12 locations, embedded with USF Health and Tampa General Hospital, et cetera, like a true old school orthopedic company. And I practiced there for... What's up?
You were a DC in this.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was seeing patients day in and day out in a couple different locations. And that got me on the radar of a company that's defunct now. But at the time, the joke is there was an article everybody could look up that's like bigger than Google. And it was a spine surgery company called Laser Spine Institute. So I jumped over, they kind of poached me. I jumped over and stopped daily active practice and joined the executive team to help build out a hub and spoke model of conservative care around their 7 ambulatory surgery centers. So I jumped to the executive side of things at that point. And I'd already been building my own personal brand, evidence-based chiropractor stuff, meeting people, speaking on stages, doing that kind of thing. So I made it through 3 CEOs there before I got shown the door. It's like a sports team. Like when the head coach goes, normally all the assistant coach goes with them. So I made it through 3 CEOs before I got let go there, and it was perfect timing because I had already been building and doing my own thing and was having trouble actually managing all of it. So today I'm involved in half a dozen. I own and operate half a dozen different chiropractic related businesses. And then I do a little bit of investing and advising in other hardware and software companies within chiropractic as well, which I'm happy to go through. So that's
amazing.
Thank you.
So you've just been gunning through it. I mean, hey, you had your levels of practice and now you see that there's like, this is my interpretation of what you just said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I see in you is that you're able to recognize these disparities in different aspects of health, whether it's integrating with DOs, MDs, and within our industry, you're able to solve problems that most chiropractors aren't able to see.
At my best, that's a hopeful statement. I appreciate the kindness. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in, like, software building, development work. I've always been interested in business building, and I've always been interested in that. So I think it's been a natural evolution over time. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, as you start to build and grow your own brand, I think this is really applicable for practicing chiropractors as well. It's like when you start to build and grow and develop your own brand, which might be your brick and mortar in your community, eventually, and normally later than you think it should be, people start to take note of that, right? So at a certain point, maybe half dozen years ago now, or 5 years ago, it really started to pick up, where opportunities started to come from people that I knew and respected that were like, hey, let's do something together. And now, even in the last year or two, I've had more and more people reach out and say, hey, can you come on? Not as a team member in any meaningful way, but as a true advisor, and exchanging equity in a hardware software company for advisor roles and things like that, which to me is a totally natural linear progression. But I think it can apply to a doc in practice, because like when you're there in your community serving enough people for enough amount of time, you start to meet other business owners. You might not become an investor advisor, but you start to meet other business owners. You start to understand different connections. You start to, maybe your second location is in a building with a realtor that now you've known for, that you get a hot tip on, right? So you start to be able to piece these things together. And it's the old network adage, right? Your net worth is your network. And there is so much truth to that. And I see that continue to unfold over time. And I'm a natural wicked introvert and not a natural connector by personality. I'm like a get in my computer. And so I'm a great case for somebody that many chiropractors have far greater skills. They are natural connectors. They love to go to those small group meetings. And to me, that's like not exactly where I thrive. Let's put it that way. But, so I think that should be, it's taken me a while to get there. I think many docs can do that a lot faster in their communities.
Okay. So then you said about 5 years ago that your personal brand, you felt like it really took off. What was like the impetus? Like what was that turning point? And then it seems like the evidence-based chiropractor was 2012. So 5 years ago, it's nearly a decade of legwork. What was like your hero story, right? What was the rising action to where you feel like you had this precipice where you're like, wow, okay, I put in the time, I've made these connections. What was that process like?
That is a really good question. It's a hard one to pinpoint. I think a lot of it is just grind. Like a lot of it is just like, I am a persistent grinder. Like my friends that know me, they're like, I'm just a workhorse. So and the consistency, I always say consistency is the number one predictor of success. And us as chiropractors know that, like getting adjusted frequently, working out frequently, eating right. It's not something you do once a month and once a week. It's something you do every single day. But I think bluntly, there's a lot of people that don't apply that to their work. And they're like, they do all of the stuff, but then they get like total, paralysis by analysis or just they can't actually get moving when it comes to really doing the work that moves their life forward professionally, not personally. And to me, I'm just fortunate, I think, that I just have that, like, I just get at it all day, every day, probably sometimes to my personal life's detriment at times. But it's something that's just who I am. That's just who I am. So to kind of come back and answer your question, I think a lot of it was just a war of attrition over time, meaning it just was stacking one thing and it's the boiling point, right? It's like 1 degree and all of a sudden, the titration happens and the color changes in the test tube or the water starts boiling. And it's like, that's the way it seemed to me. Like there was no like necessarily one thing. I think it just was just a billion little things over a really long period, a decade, over a really long period of time. Finally, it just seemed like things started to come together. And of course, it's like, what is luck? It's preparation and opportunity. So that's also when then, one domino falls, and then it's like, it falls into another. And that's like, oh, I met this guy or gal. And then oh, they know this other person and vouched for me there. And that opened up that relationship. And now you start to be able to build momentum, almost like a hill, right? You push the rock up the hill. It takes an eon, one step at a time, sometimes 5 steps back.
Yeah.
But then eventually, knock on wood, you get to the point where it's just rolling and picking up positive momentum. In hindsight, that's what it kind of feels like to me.
Do you feel like when you first started, you decided you're like, okay, I do want to make a difference in chiropractic. I'm going to start the evidence-based chiropractor. Are you the type of person that has goals, like future goals, 10 years in advance or something like that?
I really oscillate between this. So sometimes I do. I have long-term, like I have a board right here, like a vision board with literally like some like physical objects that I want, right? So
Right.
I do like being able to see like, and then, the be do have type, aspects of things and being able to, as if you already have it. And then it, then it comes into your life, of course, instead of the constant, dramatic trying to attain, which you'll continue to try to attain. I do believe in all of that. I do have some long-term goals, like financially for myself and things that I'd like to, assets I'd like to have. But I also try to be very between here and there. I also try to be very flexible in terms of just like, so I probably have long-term vision, I would say, but then I let the story unfold. And because I think again, I'm fortunate to have the personality of just the relentless push. I'm not concerned about the 1 month, 3 month, 1 year, because I know I'm going to do the work. I think those goals are really, really, I think shorter term goals are super important for people that maybe need that push and that drive day in and day out. I could see that. For me, I tend to set like a little more opaque, but kind of long-term items, and then move towards them. So that's just the way I do it.
So could you tell us, like, now I'm curious, what are your long-term items that you have, like, regarding your personal life, maybe your business? What do you got?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll look over there and tell you right now.
Yeah.
So, and some of these are not super long term, but like one of them is like a Tesla Roadster. I think they look awesome. I have a Model X, big technology guy. So so I think a Roadster is great. There is a snowmobile. I'm fortunate to have a place in Park City, Utah. So
cool.
I'll tie this together. There's also a picture of a larger place in Park City, Utah. So we have a small condo. I would like to have a townhouse so I can host friends. Right now, our condo is too small to be able to have like friends come with us and things like that. So I want a larger place because I want to share it with people. And I would like to have a big snowboarder, but I'd like to be able to then go out the garage on my snowmobile and get to the backcountry. So that would be there. Picture of Japan. I want to do like a really long trip to Japan, including snowboarding, ideally. And then here in Tampa, Florida, I'm only 2 blocks in from the water, but I have like a jet ski on there, whether it's jet ski or boat. I think long term, if I stay in Florida long term, I'd like to be actually on the water, not 2 blocks in, and then basically be able to drop the boat in the back of the house and kind of take off and that kind of thing. So so already some of this, it's like tying back to what you asked right before. It's like I already am living at the water and in the mountains, and I'm already doing exactly what I want, which is like awesome. These are just like things that would just make it even better over time. And then just from a financial perspective, I don't mind talking about it. It's like my goal is to have enough liquid to be able to live off the dividend at a higher income rate than I make today on a monthly basis. So right now, a majority of my money is, of course, in the companies and businesses that I run and operate. So I'd like to be able to get some more liquid and then cash flowing on just the percentages on there, so that it's then it's true financial freedom, right? So so yeah, those are a couple.
That's amazing, brother. Yeah. So okay, so then as far as the way that you're making income, are you focused? You said that you have your companies. And do you also are you like going out and investing in other things that get you cash returns as well, or you're focused on creating the cash flow within your companies?
Most of it's cash flow within my companies. I probably, it'd probably be a stretch to say like I'm an investor, but I've done 2 private investments into 2 private companies, one of which is going through extreme financial distress right now. So that's probably not going to come out. The other one did sell 3 or 4 years ago, and that was able to produce a dividend back upon that sale. So so those are I would say how that goes. And then on the advising, if I do advising in a company, I typically do it for a percentage of equity. So those are all of those companies right now are early stage. So they're not producing like cash flow dividends monthly or quarterly, but I hope that they will, or of course on a capital infusion or sale, that would be something where it's like, okay, great. That adds to it as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool, man. I mean, it feels, I love having these conversations because I think that there's, as you may have seen in the last couple decades of being a chiropractor, that, you know, chiropractic, there are less entrepreneurial minded people. I mean, there's definitely a significant portion of chiropractors who are crushing it, you know, but I think having this sort of conversation to also teach our profession that, hey, you know, there are ways that we can progress our profession. There are ways that we can provide money and a lifestyle for our family. You know, part of what I do in my business is helping people understand their vision and then figuring out what's really the dollar amount of the vision. You know, it started from me feeling like, wow, I want this grand life of contribution to this profession as well as my community. And then also I enjoy nice things. And there are aspects like at each level of a lifestyle that, you know, you don't consider. You know, some people are like, oh man, I want a big house, or I want a boat or a jet. And they're like, well, you know, they don't understand that there's like a docking fee, or depending on the size of the boat, you got to have a crew, or, you know, if you want a plane, you got to stock it in a hangar. Like there's like
a lot of expenses.
This whole world of extra expenses. You think, oh, I'm going to make it at $250,000, and really it's like $2.5 million. Really,
right.
Starting that, you know. so, you know, I think I appreciate you just sharing the ways that you're able to progress your own life and in your visions and goals. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Happy to dive into any of it.
Yeah. So I think it would be, I'm curious to know, as the evidence-based chiropractic, the podcast, you know, you are, what would you say has the transition of what you've talked about through the years? Like, did it start talking about one thing, and as you've learned from other doctors or whoever, you know, you've had 550, I imagine you've had at least 60% of that as individual guests, you know, and maybe if not more. Like, what have you learned throughout the years, and how has the mindset of your podcast shifted?
It's a good question. So this is one area that's probably been more stable than almost every, ironically, it's probably been more stable than any other aspect of the business. So I think generally our format is 20 minutes of research and marketing and the time it takes to get to your practice. So that's really, you know, and I didn't think about, that sounds like, man, that's, you know, I've had people say, that was a really great idea. I'm like, yeah, I didn't figure that out until like 50 episodes in. So it's like, oh, I just was like, I don't really want to do super long form just in my time availability, etc. So I was like, I guess I'll do short form. It was like no grand plans. But then I was like 50 episodes in, I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of talk about research and marketing. Every episode's about 20 minutes. That's the average commute in the United States. That's a great tagline. So it was, I backed into that one. And I think, you know, probably 85% of my episodes are solo. So probably less than 15% are a guest. And typically I would say then within that solo episodes, about 80% are me highlighting a single piece of research each week, and 20% are marketing related. So what I think what I've learned along the way is that it takes a long time to build and grow an audience.
Yeah.
That's one thing for sure. And I think there's a lot of docs, that I know docs that are running podcasts locally. I mean, not on purpose locally in their community, but they're going to attract more listeners locally in their community. It's a local, healthcare based thing. And I think the most important thing is, a couple of things I've learned is this, I guess. One is that there's vanity metrics and real metrics. My podcast is the biggest, from what everybody can see and everybody can search it online, B2B podcast, meaning business to business, meaning I speak to other chiropractors. So
Right.
I always jokingly say, other than my mom and dad, if you were a consumer and listen to my podcast, you'd get bored real quick.
Yeah.
So if the joke on all of my podcasts, social media channels, etc., I'm like, if I had 1 million followers, I would be very unhappy. Why? That sounds crazy. Why is that the case? That's the case because I know there's only about 50,000 buying decisions. The TAM, total addressable market in chiropractic, is about 50,000. There's about 100,000 licensed chiropractors. There's about 75,000 in active practice. I'm one of the 25,000 that has a license but is not in active practice. And then with associates and people transitioning out of practice and things like that, there's really about 50,000 buying units.
And
50,000 chiropractors. Go ahead.
No, that's fascinating because I hear these numbers, but I've never thought of that aspect of the numbers, which is my brain is like calculating so many things right now.
Yeah. And I think it's just so important because you have to frame it in the right way. So like I could look, of course, everything that I have is kind of publicly available. So it's like if I woke up and had 1 million listeners or 1 million followers, I'd be bummed out. Why? Because now I am talking to people who are never going to buy or have interest in my product. 2, that's going to cost me more in marketing. Every time I start retargeting, now I'm blowing budget like left and right. And I'm just like, I am a hyper pragmatic marketer at heart. So for me, it's really about a total addressable market of 50,000. So when I look at, for example, my LinkedIn, Facebook, email list, and it's 10, 15,000 podcast listenership, let's say an average of 10,000 per week, I'm like, sweet, I'm hitting about 20% of my market every single week.
Yeah.
So my point of saying that is that for docs doing things locally, or a lot of times we just get, I've seen too many docs get caught up in the rat race of numbers. Like, but my buddy has 5 million Instagram followers. Yeah. And like 4 million are in the Philippines, like, and they're a brick and mortar business in Iowa, like that, with 0 online sales, like that that's not a good thing. Like it might make that person feel good. And there's nothing wrong with getting the information of what you're passionate about to as many people as possible. Don't get me wrong. But I like from a business perspective, it's like, let me get to my point is the flip side of that, which is if you live in a town of 100,000 and you have 5,000 followers and they're all pretty much in your town to your best of your knowledge, that's great.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but often we all get a little, I'll say we see Andrew Huberman. We see these people that have nothing to do at all with anything related to who we are and what we do. And it's like, or you see the one chiropractor who has like millions of followers. And I know some of them that do, and most of them either have an online business that is a really good thing for them to have because they're able to sell at scale, or bluntly, I know quite a few chiropractors that have massive online followings and their business is terrible, like behind the scenes. Like they can't sell to them. They have none of their information. They don't really have an online product and they're struggling day to day. And it's just like, that's just something I think is a reality check with social that a lot of times is not discussed. And I think just should be discussed more. I got way off topic on the answer there, but
no, it's not. I really appreciate going down these metrics because I think it's important for us to talk about this only because, one, just for my own curiosity, because it really taking this idea of an audience and creating more specificity with it, and also, I've taken YouTube courses and business courses and marketing courses, and it's all relative. Where you're like, hey, if you got 100 dedicated people who are willing to pay you 10,000 each, you got $1 million business.
That's it.
You know, I mean, it really taking the stigma of like you're saying, these vanity numbers where, you know, unless you're an influencer and you have millions and millions of people watching your shorts or your YouTube, like, and that's where your income is coming from. Like, hey, I could see that as something,
Totally.
but what you're defining, I think, is incredibly important for chiropractors to hear, because we have students who are also growing up in an era where attention is being taught is most important. But as a chiropractor, like you're saying, like if you have the attention of 1,000 people in your community, you know, you may not even be able to handle that sort of flow in your practice,
Right.
or right. You know what I mean? Like really, you know, so I think it's important, and I appreciate you going down and breaking it down.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think thinking in terms of market size is just so overlooked. And you're 100% right that if it's like, oh, if your goal is to just create as many, like there's a couple docs, chiropractors on, for example, YouTube that have like tens of millions of followers, like great. And they probably make a pretty good income doing that. But
yeah,
that's like a really big number. Like you got to get, like, I monetize my YouTube channel, so I'm happy to talk about it. It's like, you got to have a lot to really create anything, you know, anything meaningful. So I think often, I think there are a lot of people, not just chiropractors, just humans. Like it can be like a bummer where you're like, man, I'm working on this so hard and I just don't feel like I'm making progress. But I think progress is often ill-defined. And understanding what that means and what does that really mean for your business. And if you're just, and there's also something, by the way, I'm not dogging, like if you're just like, I just want to have a channel, I'm not concerned about the business, and it makes me feel good to have as many people follow as possible. Great. Yeah. Like, I have no problem with that. But I'm running everything through the lens of like all of my online entities. I say this to my family. It's like, I'm an extremely public person in I think in my profession. I'm try to be everywhere, but for me personally, I'm an extremely private person. Almost none of what I have online is anything to do with my personal life. That's just my choice, right? There's you know, some people are the opposite, right? And both, in my opinion, are great depending upon who you are and what you do. Right. But ultimately understanding like who's your audience, who's your ideal audience, and are you really putting out the information in the best manner possible to attract as many of them as possible, whether it is, I want to make a worldwide impact, or whether it is, I want to take care of people in my town. Those are wildly different things. And I think often everybody thinks about it through the worldview, more. There's 6 billion people, 7 billion people. I need more. And for many of us, I'll say most of us, that's not really a reality that I'm going to say serves them or serves us, especially if it pulls you down to stop creating because you're just like, then you're not doing those people that really are your market the best service possible by getting them the information that they actually want and would need.
Yeah, it's like focusing on you have a team and you're focusing on your weakest players, when really if you just focus on the strongest players, you find some more strong players and you'd keep them. That's right. or having a team, you know, it's the same thing. You focus on the people who are putting out. You know, I've been on plenty of sales teams, and the people who are treated the best, the people who create the most outcome. That's right. You know, and it's not for any other aspect of it. It's a great decision for the business to treat those people the best.
That's right.
It's not because you don't care about the people who are not producing. It's just like you got to make sure you're taking care of the people who are moving the business forward, you know? So
100% right.
I feel like my question to you is, have you thought of expanding, like the idea of expanding the audience? Like how do we expand the number of chiropractors? Has that ever crossed your mind, or have you thought of just like going, okay, I'm going to focus in? It's kind of the opposite of what I just said. You know?
For me, I'm pretty happy B2B. So for me personally, I'm pretty happy B2B. I've flirted with the idea of saying, well, should we do B2C, or maybe should YouTube be like more B2C? It's just, it's just not super appealing to me because I sort of have a lot going on. I know what I know where I feel like I have competency, and I like to do it. Now, with that being said, I did start, to come back on my own word, I did start a B2C business last year called Read My MRI, where it's an AI-based company. People can upload PET scans, MRIs, CT, X-ray, labs, and then get patient-friendly reports downloaded in 1 minute back to them with links and citations, etc. But I'm not like a face of that company at all. And it really is an SEO play in terms of how we built out the structure. I'm happy to go into it. But so I do have one B2C entity, but it's not like my brand, so to speak. And quite frankly, I don't think I've discussed it at all through evidence-based chiropractor or anything. It's like a totally separate thing. So for me and building my audience, I think there are docs that do a really good job B2C. I think there's a lot of people that can do a better job than me personally. And I think there's a lot of practicing docs that can really do a better job than me talking really B2C and helping more consumers. When I say that, of course, more consumers, people understand who we are and what we do. So I'm pretty happy staying B2B right now, but hey, things could always change.
No, for sure. Totally. I get it. I'm curious about this MRI company that you just talked about because, I've studied from the CBP docs, Deed Harrison, and I know that Joe Ferrantelli with his Posture Ray they've got incredible reliability studies for their AI to be able to read the X-rays with incredible accuracy. Is there a similar system that's able to read the MRIs?
We do not. We are report only. So to read the images, from what I understand, to read the images, you need to go through FDA clearances and things like that. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money, and it's just not what. I'm not trying to compete with necessarily RAD AI, which is already embedded in like 60% of the hospital systems as workflows for radiologists. We are a true B2C product, meaning not expediting doctor flow, which I actually would say is still B2B. It's really consumer facing. So, and I'll just break down the exact issue and what we're trying to solve. So one of my responsibilities at one of the orthopedic groups was some of the pre-surgical planning for spine-related cases. So I'd sit down with patients and review their MRIs, their CTs, knee to knee, and I couldn't look at I could look at the reports, but I would actually have to look at the images, which makes most doctors like shiver, right? Especially when you're talking about MRIs, CTs, PET scans, etc. So I just built that competency over time and through training with them, etc. And what happened was hyper predictable. People would come in with either a report that's 1 paragraph or 10 pages. Like the radiologist, there's so much variability. So they need to come in with 1 paragraph that was missing all the stuff that we cared about. Like basically the radiologist, I'm over exaggerating on purpose.
For sure.
The radiologist would be like, doesn't have cancer, but we're like, yeah, but there's compressive pathology at 17 different levels. Right. Or there'd be like minor findings and the radiologist would have a 10-page report and the patient thinks they're dying tomorrow. Right. I have degenerative changes at every single level. Yeah, you're an ex-boxer who's 74 years old. And so reports are traditionally written for other doctors. Radiologists write reports for the doctors, not for the patients. And in this bizarre thing of how this has played out over time, the patients get the reports. Many doctors only look at the reports, completely nuts. And then the images are just left for the radiologist. It doesn't make, I'm a big fan of neuroradiologists. I want them to, and DAC bars, they should do that. This is not to replace them by any stretch. What this is to translate their hard work and expertise into patient-friendly language so that the patient doesn't need to search Dr. Google, be super scared, and we preload the patient on their report through us, their AI generated report, with questions they should ask their doctor. So when they go in and have that 90-second meeting with the orthopedic doc, they're not deer in headlights, which is 99.99 repeating % of patients. So they can go in and be like, I see, in an ideal world, they're going in holding their report with the doc, and they get to hold the doc accountable. Hey, it doesn't look like the degenerative changes are out of the ordinary, but I want to know about what my options are for non-surgical because it still hurts. right?
Right.
And now
Right.
they get to ask informed questions and hopefully get better answers. So that's really the goal of that product and service.
Well, that's so cool. I mean, hey, that's a real problem, and that's an incredible way to solve it. I mean, give patients a bit more confidence and reduce their stress levels.
Thank you. Yeah. That's really the goal. And yeah, we launched like maybe almost a year and a half ago. It's been going really well. We have hundreds of thousands. Let me rephrase that. We have tens of thousands of people that visit the website each and every month. We do pretty well in terms of margins on that business, as you can imagine. And
Yeah.
I was fortunate with that business. I got accepted into a health tech startup incubator here in Tampa.
Nice.
So I was just there yesterday. So that there's additional resources and tools, and thinking about, okay, great, what's the best way to be able to potentially scale like this something long term. Of course, what we're concerned about is the moat or lack thereof, and what OpenAI is doing with health in the future, et cetera. Or they could eventually eat our lunch, but this is such a niche focused tool. That I still think there's opportunity for more than one player. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so now I have a philosophical question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Like the morality and the ethics between doctors and chiropractors. Now, let me give you a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah.
We're in chiropractic philosophy in this class, our fourth class of the philosophy, and this is where we get into debates. We talk about debates between, is subluxation real, is it not? When there's a debate coming up that I'll be doing on Monday. The ideology is it moral or ethical for chiropractors to also have the ability, with proper training, to be able to have some of the practices that a medical doctor or DO would do, like prescriptions or vaccinations or minor surgeries, or being able to read whatever, a plethora of things. Now, you've had a lot of experience in situations where you are working harmoniously with these people, and you bring an area of expertise as a chiropractor that is unique in the same way that an MD is probably going to know way more about pathologies than, overarching all pathologies than we do. They're spending, 4 years studying that. We have a few classes. So obviously we know way more about the nervous system and how that's going to be functioning. And DOs are, may fall somewhere in the middle, maybe more towards an MD. But the question I'd like to start with is, do you think that there is a moral or ethical advantage to having unity with these other professions? Or do you think that there would be a way that MDs could learn more about chiropractic or vice versa, and having interdisciplinary doctors?
It's a good question. I'm not a philosophical expert, but in my opinion, morals and ethics are somewhat have been proven to be extremely subjective over time. So that's something automatically where I'm like, I don't really like to go there, because what's moral for one person culturally, historically, through experience, or ethically, is going to be dramatically different than what it will be for another person. So I think that's a very difficult question. So what I can answer is what my thoughts are on it. And my thoughts are, if I'm just blunt and direct with it, my thoughts are that chiropractic does not include drugs and surgery. Hard stop. So, for me, that's a hard line. Now, surgery, I think, is a relatively straightforward thing. Drugs can be a lot more subjective. Well, does that include nutraceuticals? Where's the line on that, right? And there, I think there is a line, depending upon what state and country you're in, and I think there should be a line. And I don't believe that chiropractic. I don't believe there's a benefit for chiropractors or to do drugs and surgery. Now, there are these extreme cases that sometimes get brought up. What about in ultra rural communities where there's no access? My My take on that is a separate and distinct conversation, but people often try to bring that conversation in to things where it doesn't apply in any meaningful way to try to move things in whatever way they want, which is just politics. And I have zero interest in politics in any regard whatsoever. I don't believe in trading other people's assets for personal benefit, which is my which is my definition of politics. The second component of that. So I do a hard line with chiropractic does not include drugs and surgery. For me personally, that's a personal opinion, is a hard line. In terms of interfacing with other doctors, yeah, that's what actually makes it really easy. Like, because then it's like, cool, here's what we do, here's what you do. My experience has been, and this is not unilateral, like there's always bumps on a log, everything's a continuum, all of the caveats. But in general, most of the younger doctors, MD, DO, PA, mid-levels, PA, physician assistant, ARNP, mid-level providers, most of the younger ones, they kind of like, they've grown up just the same. You're a lot younger than me, but I'll say like, kind of like we have, like, they're like, yeah, movement matters. They've followed inserts, credible celebrity, nutrition expert here. So they're like, yeah, duh. Like now, like, of course that stuff matters. Now they're also still like, I have no idea what you do as a chiropractor because we've done an extremely poor job. Like being my partner, Jason, a business partner, Jason always says this. It's like saying like you're a chiropractor is like saying you're an attorney. It doesn't mean anything. Like, do you do criminal? Are you a prosecutor? Do you do maritime law, contract law? Like, it does,
Totally.
It's an immaterial thing to say. And I think many chiropractors still haven't fully grasped that it's like saying you're a chiropractor is immaterial. And it's even worse because at least people, even an attorney that kind of know what they do, but they just don't know, like, well, what kind of law do you practice? When you say a chiropractor, they don't even know what we do. Never mind what kind of chiropractic you practice. So, so my point of saying that is, I think there's like tremendous upside to working with other providers. I think, and I'm just going to get back to like hyper pragmatic marketing. Most medical providers don't go out of business. Like they hang a shingle and have patient flow almost immediately. Like they're not concerned about new patients. As a matter of fact, most of us know you try to get an appointment at a medical doctor and they're like, we're not accepting new patients. And you're like, what a problem to have. So my point of that is just like, well, why wouldn't you go? And we do, our whole system is based upon not changing who you are, but just finding, as I said, your dance partners. It's like, I'm hard pressed to believe like there's not five, if you live in not a ultra rural community of 2 people, how is there not 5 other healthcare providers in your circle of practice that would get along with you and you get along with them? No matter what their designation is, it's actually statistically impossible. The challenge is most chiropractors make literal 0 effort throughout their entire career. And then they're curious on why it never happened. To me, that's
expecting somebody to come show up.
Like, of course they don't know. So, and I get there's a lot of feelings and fear and insecurity sometimes and personality. And there's all of those things that those are all real. Those are all like real challenges. And I'm not dissuading those, but my point of that is what I have seen is that, and there's exceptions to this all over the place, so it's not a rule, but in general, more younger providers are like, get it more. They still don't have any idea what you do. But when you're like, oh, like we focus on like movement-based care, nutrition, movement, the neuromusculoskeletal system, helping people stay active without drugs or surgery. They're like, oh, that makes sense. And then normally there's follow-up questions going to be like, how do I make a decision between you and a physical therapist? And it's like, okay, let me dive deeper. Right. And that's a great conversation to have. So I am extremely pro interdisciplinary relationship because like, why wouldn't you go to the biggest spigot of new patients ever created? Like to not do that is completely insane. You either hate time or hate money. You just want to spend more time and more money. Paid advertising, like, and this is like 90% of chiropractors. Like, I just got to run more paid ads. It's like literally that's the last thing you should do. Like literally, if you made a stepwise things of the things you should do, marketing and advertising, in my opinion, paid advertising 90% of the time should literally be the last thing after everything else is totally dialed, except if you're spending money to build brand at the beginning and just build your brand, not get new patients, quote unquote. That's a whole other story.
Is this part of the training that somebody would receive going through your program, is how to integrate with other practitioners?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, we break it out into modules. How do you build a target list? What are the three we say, how do you build a target list? How do you vet that target list? What gets measured, measured, managed kind of thing. And then the three pillars of relationship building, as we call them, sending case notes, sending research, taking meetings. We go through how to do each one, what the best strategies are for each. And we basically go through A to Z. The program is an A through Z guide on, how do you go from 0 to some relationships? And I'm very honest with the docs. I'm like, how many relationships are you going to be able to get? I have no idea. But I can almost guarantee if you do something, it's going to be more than 0. And I can also guarantee one thing, and that is if you do nothing, it will be 0.
Exactly. True that. Okay. So do you think that it would be more beneficial for chiropractors to integrate, like literally create a business with another doctor, or is it just more like, handing off the patient and they're going to see another doctor in his own facility?
The easiest is always to do the referral, right? Because there's no business entanglement. By definition, you would be separate businesses making that referral from a compliance and legality perspective. So that's easy. I mean, I think it's great when docs do have collaborative, true. It's just my experience has been it's super hard. Like now you're taking on a business partner, who owns what, how are things referred? Bluntly, there's many chiropractors that have multidisciplinary practices where the MD never shows up. Are you renting their license? It's a very real thing. MDs do it for themselves, by the way. They have 4 locations and physician's assistants are in each location. And they just are mandated by law, depending upon their state, to be at the location 1 time a week, 1 time a month, whatever it might be.
Right.
I don't view that as, so a chiropractor, I'm not downing this, but a chiropractor renting an MD license to do regenerative medicine is not the type of thing that I think we're discussing here. Somebody practicing shoulder to shoulder, side by side, I think is awesome. Just think it's really hard to like work out the economics and find the person. Sure. So I can tell you it's like a bazillion times easier just to build a referral relationship than to try to like start a business relationship with somebody, especially when that somebody is like, I don't even know what you do. So it's a lot easier to get a referral than it is to sign on the dotted line of an LLC with that individual.
Yeah, totally. That's good, man. So, where do you see your business heading? Like, you've got this new AI system. You've got, how many people are in your evidence-based chiropractor business?
It's small. So for evidence-based chiropractor MD connection program, we have about 100 active docs at any given time. So it's small. Yeah.
Okay. And then typically, you seem like a numbers guy. Are you seeing these doctors for like they're committing basically for life, or is this more of like a program that they're with you for a few years and how is that going?
It's an inverse bell-shaped curve. People either last like less than 90 days or like forever. So in the less than 90 days is a variety of things, in my opinion. Some of it is just like life changes. Like that's a very real thing, right? I am moving practice. Hey, we totally switched focuses. I brought on a new associate. Like I got to make a change. And then there's I'll just be direct, lack of grit. Like people just being like, I don't know, sounded like a good idea. And then I never did anything. And now it's been 60 days and I'm like, whatever. I'm not as excited anymore. That's a majority of the early churn. A minority is like an actual business change, but people who just like actually get over, I'll say the hump. And what I mean is like take action. They'll stick with it forever because they're consistently updated with new materials to get out to those doctors. That's part of why it's ongoing.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, it's a total no-brainer. You get one referral per year, and you're like way upside ROI. It's just like, okay, that's like, so as soon as somebody sees a little bit of benefit, the challenge is it is real work to see that benefit. Like I tell everybody, I can't implement this for you. I don't live, I can do everything I can to help you, but you got to go out there and do some of that. And I'll come back to a question you started to ask, which is, and I'm happy to go into this in more detail, but really our focus moving forward is with Care Plan Pro. And that's really where we've seen, like, we've doubled our membership since launch in 90 days. So, over all of the businesses of the under the Smart Chiropractor umbrella. So that's really an area where we see a tremendous amount of opportunity to help docs at a way bigger scale. MD Connection, it's a niche product. I get it. It's not for I would love it. And I'm like, it should be for every chiropractor. I get that it's not for every chiropractor. But Care Plan Pro certainly has a much bigger market opportunity, and to be able to help more chiropractors, help more people make more money.
Well, for those chiropractors and students who don't know what Care Plan Pro is, what is it?
Yeah, it's a presentation and sales tool that does the work so you don't have to sell. So you can create care plans, memberships, concierge type plans. You can then present those plans. It's web-based. So we say app, but you don't need to download an app. So whether it's a tablet, a computer, or your phone, you can beautifully present a care plan, membership, or concierge level service, answer the 5 questions we know every patient needs to know before they say yes. Can you help me? What's wrong? What are you going to do? How long is it going to take? And what's it going to cost? That is all built out in all of your personalized templates. You build the templates, so that takes less than 30 seconds per patient to create a beautifully designed care plan presentation, so that you can just go through it and not feel like timeshare salesman, like writing down like your care plan on a sheet of paper and sliding it across the table, or discounting your care, or the most common thing, under recommending care because of the number. Or having people ghost the practice. Yeah, doc, but they never received anything except for maybe a sheet of paper at best. So Care Plan Pro, it really enables docs to build templates that are totally personalized for them, highlight the options available, accept payment. We have a direct integration with Stripe, fully integrated, or they can use our external payment processor. And then we've built on some cool AI follow-up, phones and text and email AI follow-up for pending. Often we see docs, that's the first thing that falls off their plate. The patient says, I need to think about it. Maybe one phone call goes out, patient never be seen again. So we have follow-up mechanisms built in, as well as some coaching options as well, that enable docs to either go through a course or use like an AI coach via phone. That's actually super, super cool to be able to train on how to be able to present things. So the whole goal is to make the doc more comfortable, more confident, and actually have a care plan presentation that makes sense in this. I would say this decade, but I'll actually say this century, because many docs are still presenting like it's like 1994. It's either not being presented, it's being presented verbally, or it's on a sheet of paper. I think that's kind of crazy in 2026 as we sit here today. So our goal is to be able to solve that problem. And what we've seen so far is that mission has resonated with hundreds upon hundreds of doctors in the 90 days since we've launched. So
that's amazing. That's cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is like the mindset of a chiropractor who is successful with your system? I mean, obviously, the number one point that I'm getting from you is that they just have this drive. But if you think of yourself, you said that you also see yourself that way, where you're just willing to go. Like, what is it that happens in your day-to-day life that keeps you on that pace? And what is it that you're seeing in the chiropractors' day-to-day life who are practicing that also they're just on pace? What do you think that they're doing, or what are you doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, and I know this is going to resonate with you with some of your, your background and history, but it's like I say consistency is the number one predictor of success, but that goes hand in hand with just massive action over a continuous amount of time. Right. So, for me, it's just how I'm built. Right. So I feel very fortunate for that. Like, it's just how I'm built. Like, I know some other really close friends of mine that are chiropractors that have products in the, and or see patients. And it's just like, it just feels like I'm like, man, you got all the tools, but they can just never seem to get it together. Right. And I have areas of deficiency and deficit, don't get me wrong, but it's just like they just can't get over the hump of just doing the darn thing, right? And it's just like, man, just really wild to me. So I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know how to analyze that, but I'm just fortunate that that's not me. I think for me, it's just who I am. When I look at the docs that we work with that are most successful, I actually think it can be a combination of things. There are some docs that are just like hyper driven by the mission. Awesome. So they're willing to put in the work. There are some docs, now we just get back down to the root causes of what drives people, right? Is it ambition? Is it money? Is it helpfulness? Is it feeling wanted? Is it feeling like you can provide? Is it building a big team? So, to me, it's like our most successful docs, I guess I haven't really thought about this, but as I'm thinking about it live, it's like they have one of those things, right? There's something out there, where they're just like, regardless of why they keep showing up, they're like, no, I'm willing to either commit to learn or commit to try something new or commit to be better. And I'm imagining what drives that behind the scenes are probably, the Maslow's hierarchy or whatever, which is like either money or recognition or fulfillment internal or, those types of things. So I think, that would be, that would be my best answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, it covers a lot of things. There's something overarching. They feel a purpose or they feel a desire to be loved in, all the ways that you've listed. So, I'm always curious to figure out what is the impetus. In my life, I have an interesting story, lots of, ups and downs in my life. And trying to figure out what are these aspects of like, what are the turning points that helps a human like shift into something more purposeful. Not to say that people don't have purpose, but like in their own perception, that they have more purpose in some way, like as we're saying, there's this level of consistency. And for me, I have a shirt, I have 5 of them, and they say, go fast, don't die. And in my whole life, I've always just been super adrenaline filled, wanting to like rush to the finish line. And more recently in my life, I've learned to keep these big visions and stop like judging myself today versus the vision. And I think that something that really I would slow me down or I would quit pretty easily was because of how harshly I would view myself in this moment compared to my ability to be a visionary. Ultimately, being a visionary like yourself is like the ultimate gift, to be able to see into the future. And the opposite side of that gift is not being present, because it's always comparative when really I think, again, the biggest insight for myself is just going, well, I feel finally in this last month, I'm doing well in school, which took a year for that to happen. I'm progressing my businesses forward. I'm progressing my relationship forward. I'm exercising, and I'm helping other people build their businesses. Like, there's so much on my plate, and I always just felt defeated.
I'd love to chime in on that. I appreciate you sharing that. And for me, I think a lot of that comes, and this will be sort of a free flow of thought, not particularly refined, is that in my mind, a lot of that comes down to, I'll say, being up and open. And here's what I mean by that. In my experience, one of the greatest challenges, for instance, with like young people are people that only live in their town, never have seen anything else. Like they aren't able to understand the opportunities that go. And that can often lead to, depression, anxiety, all of these other things. So in my thought and experience is that, and even when I'm like, I'm a little not as energized, I'm a pretty energetic guy overall regarding work, but even when I'm a little de-energized, it's like, I'll just like, and these are so obvious things, but I think we all fall off the rails, right? Which is, what are you inputting into your system? I don't mean you.
Mhm.
I mean, all of us,
Yeah, no, I
right?
understand. I understand.
It's like, what, so, and I'll give you a direct example with me personally. So like, I've just been so head down. Like almost a decade ago, I started going to like pretty, for lack of a better way to say it, pretty large, like entrepreneurial San Francisco based, technology conferences and things like that almost a decade ago now. And I was the only chiropractor there by far. And but it's just like, and I was like, so energized, like 99% of it didn't really apply, especially then, like it didn't really apply to I was in like the such rudiments of what I was doing. But it just was like, oh, for me, I was like, wow, this just like shows me the possibility, gets me juiced up, like it gets me excited. Right. And then basically been like just head down working for the last 10 years. And then a couple months ago, I'm like, let me like revisit all these people I like used to look up to that like, own these companies or have done these things. And what are they up to now? And like, I've gotten like super juiced up again. Like, I'm like, I like the interview while I'm working. I got an interview with them on YouTube on the side, like, and I'm just working. And it's like, that's just like good input, right? Like the age old stuff. Like, I try to read a few pages of a book before I go to sleep every single night. Like for me, those are always biographies or business books, and it's just like, and I think this goes to the feeds as well, like your social feeds. Like, what do you have there? Like, I'm like pretty relentless. Like if I like see one post, even sometimes, and I don't like to admit this, but I'll admit it for maybe people that have felt the same way, that have been scared, which is sometimes I'll even be scrolling in my social feeds and I'll have like a friend and I'm like, oh, I feel like a little bit of either like envy or jealousy. No offense to them, but I'll like unfollow them for a little while because I don't want that feeling. I don't want to feel that way towards them. I don't want to feel that way towards me. So I'm just like, let me just take a break for a minute. Like, no offense to them, no judgment on me, but I just kind of try to realize that. And I'm like, yeah, this is just like not the time right now. Like I'll come back around. Doesn't mean I don't love them or won't take the phone call if they call, but, and I just try to be very, I think I try to be very intentional. I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I try to be very intentional with those things and also just be able to, get out. And I think this plays in to many chiropractors, the age old adage, that all, most chiropractors are on an island. And being on an island, there's good things because you can be the king of the island, and there's really bad things because, if you don't like the people on the island or there's nobody else on the island, it gets pretty lonely pretty quick, right? So I really think there is something to just like getting out, more. All of us do become so consumed, me as much as anybody, with our own businesses, with our own stuff, and with our own agendas, etc. But I just think it's so critically important to like have, I'm saying multiple things here, but have your feed be whatever it is for you that keeps you positive. If there's something negative that you're seeing, stop it. You control that 100%. It's not the algorithm forcing it. The algorithm is feeding you what you want. And if you go through and just be a relentless in 1 hour of one day, you can change it entirely or remove the whole app. I don't care. But that's an opportunity there. 2, I think, is what are you listening to, watching, or reading? I'll kind of put podcasts, YouTube, and books together. It's like what you are inputting, and I know this is like right up your wheelhouse, is like that's literally like programming your mind. Like, it's literally programming the neurons in your mind. So, it doesn't mean it's always going to be roses. It doesn't mean it always needs to be, wow, this is so great. We all know that's not real, right? But I think we all can appreciate, if you do the habit day after day, getting back to the consistency and massive action, if you get back to the items of putting in the things that feed you, and what feed you might be different than your friend, your spouse, your kid, your father, mother, that's okay. That's why there's a variety of life. But whatever feeds you in a positive way, I think is just such a critical component. And many of us, especially after being in practice a little while, I think we just become so, it's very easy to become very monotonized with how you're going about things. And in some ways that's great because you can build habits, but habits can become bad habits really quick. And I'm going to say bad habits don't mean abjectly negative. It just means, is it actually positive? It doesn't, middle doesn't mean good always. Like sometimes it's good to take a break, but are you doing things that are positive every single day, or feeding positive things, whatever that means to you, in each and every day? So anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
No, totally. I totally see that as well. And I think something important that is an aspect of this, which you touched on at the beginning, is human connection, where you're like, hey, I'm going to these technology conferences. I just want to go. I mean, you're just in a place with everybody is new.
That's
It's a
it.
completely different thought process, and you're connecting with people who are super excited about something they believe in. And I urge anybody to just, like you're saying, get out of your town. Like, I mean, one of the greatest shifts for me was joining the military. I had my dad was a police officer in Las Vegas. And so I grew up in a great neighborhood, but right outside the neighborhood wasn't so awesome. And I always grew up being aware of everybody, having prejudgments, just because, this is a police officer's life.
Yeah.
They don't call the police officer when somebody's birthday is happening,
Right.
unless somebody got stabbed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
There's typically a problem. So I joined the military and had all of these preconceived beliefs about certain kinds of people just completely be destroyed. Because I'm like, wow, everybody's amazing. It's not like I became an open book, because you also learn in the military to question everybody.
Right.
And then I went to war, and you really question everybody in the kinds of wars where people aren't wearing uniforms. Not everybody is identified. And even in your own unit, we had a Chinese spy in our unit, so it's like, the point I'm trying to make is not that, but the point I'm trying to make is saying that having all these experiences and going out and being at war, having gratitude for air conditioning. It was 138 degrees with 100% humidity in Kuwait and Iraq. And, the water was outside. So, it's like the hottest day you've ever experienced, and you're taking a shower in boiling water. You're like literally sweating. You can barely touch the water, and you're sweating while water is on you. Like, you feel yourself sweating. It's the craziest thing. And then you walk out to 138 degrees and it feels cool. It's insane. Or just having to shower every day. There are times where we went weeks, and then we have a water bottle and you just poke 3 holes in it. And then at some point you're just like, I'd rather drink this water than take a shower. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's intense.
That's intense. Along with, maybe not living every day. The point is that going out and experiencing life creates this immense sense of gratitude. Really, I think, for how we grew up, or maybe the opposite. You're like, wow, there's a complete gratitude that you've left so you could see that there's something different. I mean, our ability to grow and connect with people of all walks of life, no matter what we're doing, is just so important. And I really love your daily rituals of having the right inputs. When I work out, I started when I was really just starting back up again after lots of drug use. I would listen to veteran stories from like World War II, in the Korean War, Vietnam. And, those are just completely insane stories, and I'm sitting here running. And so for me, it was like understanding people who have struggled, and then choosing to compare myself to that struggle, and being like, drawing strength from the fact that somebody else in a situation that was absolutely, like, you would think is impossible for somebody to overcome it, did. So then I look at my life and I'm like, I could run more. I'm not shot. I've eaten just a few hours ago. Like, I can go get some water, so relating all this back to how we can, traits of people who are successful, I think, have a broader scope of what reality can be for many people.
Yeah.
And then just being like, wow, they know what it's like, they know where the grass is green, and they want to help people experience whatever their green grass is, even though it may not be the same, you know?
That's right. I think that being able to create, I think it comes down to really just being able to create some form of perspective, right? We always, we always get so encapsulated in our own thing. And often it can be overlooked that it actually is work to get perspective. It's unnatural, meaning most people don't, and
Yeah.
all of us don't unless we try, right? It's an action, not a result. So having perspective is an action. You have to do things to be able to get that perspective. And there's a variety of ways, you've highlighted some of them, great ones to be able to do that. And I think that that's really key. And one thing that just comes to mind as you mentioned that, it's related, I'll say somewhat indirectly, but it is related, which is, and I always butcher the quote, but there's an old Steve Jobs quote that's like just like the way that I remember it is how I remember it, which is, everything you see, feel, or experience in your life was created by somebody no smarter than you. Like that quote fundamentally changed my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah, like every bridge, house, computer, like unless you have a true like mental deficit, different story, but it's like it's just people.
Yeah.
Like, so like people created everything that we see, feel, or experience. Like a house, somebody had to come here and build it. Like they had to cut down, yeah, you get the whole point. But like the
Yeah.
computer, somebody built the microchip, and then the microchip had to go, and then somebody had to build the screen, and then it's like the bridge, like all of this stuff that's like some of it we take for granted, some of it we're amazed by, some of it, not. It's like our experience is built essentially by people that have done stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
why not be a part of that, right?
Yeah.
And to me that was like, oh, this isn't something that somebody else did. Now technically somebody else did it, but it's like there's not this separate, it's not a separate thing. Like I can be in that group, like whatever that means to you, right? It's like, to
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
that's just that was like a fundamental shift in how I viewed things.
All right. I've got left curve and
Please.
get right in your heart. You have kids and a wife?
Yes, yeah, a daughter and a wife. Yes.
Okay. You have a daughter and a wife. Okay. How old is your daughter?
13.
13. Okay. So she understands the aspects of the world, especially if she's got a father like you, for sure. And I'm sure you picked an incredible wife. So what would you say your daughter is most proud of to have you as a father? Like what does she see? What has she learned from you? Maybe if she was in how would she articulate it today?
That is a really hard question. So I guess I would answer with a hope, right? Because it's we'd have to ask her to get the real answer. My hope would be is that I am just exceptionally honest and transparent about who I am, about my life, thoughts, beliefs, stances, finances. Like not she gets she grew, I think has grown up. I'll say the way that I grew up, which I feel exceptionally privileged about, which was I was an only child. My daughter's an only child. So, and it was like my family and my parents were just like, no, it's the three of us. It's not two adults and a kid. It's the three of us. So that was always like, I remember picking, when we were going to move when I was 12 years old, it was like, I literally was a third of the decision on what house we were going to move into. Like, and I try to do that same with my daughter as well, where it's just, that doesn't mean that, I'm not a parent. That doesn't mean that, we're best friends, but it means that we are three people doing life together.
Yeah.
And I think that I hope that she would say one of the things is that she can be herself, she can be unique, she can be honest and authentic, and that she has a clear understanding of who I am.
Yeah. So let's fast forward 20 years from now. And she has this, like what you just said, let's just say is her answer. How do you think that these next 20 years how will that perception benefit her life in the next 20 years?
Yeah, that one I think is a little bit easier to answer, actually. So that to me, that's really about being the best version of herself that she can be. So for me, that means we talk a lot about business and entrepreneurship and things like that. And she can do whatever she wants. I'm not going to force her into one way or the other. But I think there's just fundamentally different ways people view the world. And is it, it's the old, is this, nothing is done, to you, it's done for you. And I think that probably encapsulates all aspects, whether it's political stances, whether it's how you view people or religion or finances. It's like, are these things being done to you or for you? And in my mind, we create, and I hope that she would think this as well. My parents gifted me the opportunity to understand I create my own reality every day with the decisions that I make. Nothing is this other thing. It is all one thing. And it's all one thing that I have the privilege to be able to adjust in the manner I see fit based upon my daily actions to get whatever outcome I want. And along that path, there will be setbacks, there will be challenges, there will be wins and losses and everything in between. But all of that has happened, for me, not to me. And all of it has happened because of the decisions I've made. And I've always understand I am in control of those decisions.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that would be, I mean, who wouldn't want to have that mindset? He's definitely set up as a winner for sure, All right, second one. If your wife is, I'm sure, your closest partner. I mean, and so I'm sure you and your wife experience and share things. Like, she knows the ups, she knows the downs, she knows the depth of all of the emotions, all of the challenges that you experience. And I'm sure she's incredibly supportive. Yeah. So if your wife was here now and we asked her, what is something that she sees in you that maybe you're pushing too hard, or maybe you're just something that you're viewing yourself in a way that may be unnecessary in her perception, you're going through a challenge, maybe she could give you some insight as to how to overcome it. What do you think that challenge would be, and what would her advice be to you?
Another really good question. I think the challenge would probably just be, what would the challenge be? That's a really good one. There's a lot of unique individual challenges, and I've been so mirrored up in development work, but those are minor things. I'm trying to think larger. I think the greatest challenge would just be, I guess if I try to take it to a large level and not like just like a hyper specific one day kind of thing, I think it's like, to me, the greatest challenge is always, am I living up to my potential? That to me, that's really, am I maximizing my potential and opportunity? Right. And if I don't think that that's really happening, that can be just like, I can get like negative and kind of just like, it's like that's not fun. So I think, her, and her advice typically would be something to the effect of, which is really good advice. But look how far you've come, and there's still time. Like, in other words, chill out. But like, and let me say that a little more elegantly. Have gratitude for what's going on today. Have gratitude for what's going on today, and that will open the door and unlock tomorrow. Instead of being focused on, be focused on not the remaining untapped potential, but the potential that's been filled, and have gratitude for that. And of course, we all know that is, she is correct. That is how then that's how you get / fulfill the rest of it, is through gratitude on what already exists. But I can become very non-compliant with that many times.
Yeah. But she's obviously proud of you for all the things that you're doing. If that's her perspective, she's like, dude, you're crushing it, man.
I think so. I like that.
Yeah. Look at what we got. High five. High fiving it out.
That's right.
Amazing, man. Okay, cool. Well, what would you like to leave for your audience? Let's say you come to this point, like what are you trying to leave our profession with?
I think that, that's for everybody to decide eventually, not for me to decide. My goal and job is to do the best work I can and show up each day until those days are no more, whether that's by choice or not by choice. So that, that's my opinion on it. So my hope and goal would be, this was a guy who showed up, did the work, consistently put out, things that helped me. And I think just from a brand perspective, which is me ultimately, it's, I don't tread in the negative. Like, I know I can get, I've always, it's kind of a weird way to take this question, but I've always said I've left a lot of money on the table by not being divisive. I walk the tightrope. I don't dog half these chiropractors or these other half, or that's not the way I do it. I know I could get a lot more clicks. I could go a lot deeper with certain aspects of people that follow me on all spectrums if I decided to basically do what I see many people do, which is grow by negativity or grow by divisiveness or by a hot take or whatever else. It's like, that's great if that's who they are, whatever. That's just not who I am. So it's not, I have my personal beliefs and they are extremely strong, but quite often, most of the time, I don't believe, no, my job is to show up in my opinion, as a positive force. It's not to be Jeff's pulpit. It's to be a pulpit that enables docs to be able to hopefully learn something, hopefully to get a little bit of inspiration along the way, maybe even to learn what they don't want to do if they don't like what I'm doing, or about, okay, great.
Yeah.
Gain some form of clarity. So I guess ultimately, if somebody looked back at, at certain points, somebody's like, what is this YouTube channel? Well, this will be like looking at like a laser disc in the future or something. Like, what's this thing? I got it to play videos. Like, and there's this guy. What would I hope? I would hope they'd be like, wow, this guy actually like showed up really consistently. Seems like he put a lot of effort into what he was doing. And it looks like there were some people along the way that were helped by what he was able to do. And in turn, he was able to live, a nice life because of that. So a fair exchange of value.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's what's happening, man. It's cool to hear your story and see how it's continuing. I thought about this question because I wanted to ask it earlier, but you've been coming out with a piece of research that you've been reviewing for, I don't know how many years at this point,
12 years. A long time.
Incredible amount of them. So, where do you draw? Like, where are you finding the evidence? Like, what is your system of going, all right, well, you've already reviewed an immense amount of research, how are you choosing what to focus on next? Is it like your audience is saying, hey, let's learn more about this? Is it your just own personal drive to learn?
It's a great question. So there's a couple different answers with that. The process is actually super easy and anybody can do it, which is, I have a PubMed account. You can sign on to PubMed for free. My joke is always, especially the people who are not students, I'm like, the last time you thought about PubMed was when you were in school. Sorry to bring back nightmares. But it's like, you can build a PubMed account, and basically what PubMed allows you to do now, this, in a few years, this will sound super funny with AI because it's already kind of like, sounds really old fashioned. But basically I have a bunch of keywords and PubMed emails me every Monday morning based upon those keywords, what research was released over the previous week with those keywords. And then I basically look at that email every Monday morning, and I have a couple chiropractic groups and things online where people post stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But basically I look at either Facebook groups. Sometimes I'll search AI, but I built an agent to do this for me, but it's not working correctly yet, is actually the truth. So I still rely on PubMed to like just give me these. And then I just like look at the titles in the email that PubMed sends. I'm like, and it's just totally personal. I'm like, interesting, not interesting. And it's kind of a little bit of everything. It's like, do I want to talk about it? Number one, do I want to read about it? And does this have applicability to what I think a doc listening, a practicing chiropractor would want? Because sometimes I'm super interested, but I'm like, there's nothing applicable to a practicing doc. Other times I'm like, I get why a practicing doc would like this, but maybe it is like a divisive piece. And I'm like, I don't want to, like, That's not like I'm not feeling it. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I basically just store all of those in a folder. And then each week I look at that folder and either the oldest or the newest one. Sometimes I just mix up the sort. But there's usually like 20 to 30 articles in that folder, not like a ton. And sometimes I'll just open a couple and then just like reread the headlines of the paper itself, PDF. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Nah, I'm not feeling it. Not feeling it. Oh, that's cool. I think I want to talk about that. Or I'll just get like a seed of like one line of an idea. And I'm like, okay, I can riff on that. And then that's kind of how that process goes. I feel like there's a second part of that question that I was going to answer, but I forget. That's how I choose.
Yeah. All right. And then once you're in the paper, I mean, do you, I haven't listened to, enough of your podcast to really have the answer, but when you're looking through the paper, you're talking about the way that it relates to chiropractors? Maybe do you go into like, well, hey, is this a credible paper, or do you pose more questions to like what is your typical
super casual? So it's not like academic at all. That's kind of the goal, and the brand is not to be super academic. So a lot of it is just like, for example, hey, today we're going to be talking about a new study that's all around how biochemical markers change after an adjustment. So let's dive in. Like, here's what the researchers were trying to find. Here's the way that they did the study. Very basic. Like, there's 50 people. There was 7,000 people, right? Those are context things that are important. So it's just like super basics. Like, there's 7,000 people. They adjusted them one time and measured it. So there was nothing super long term, but it gives us a good idea of what was going on immediately after an adjustment. Okay, cool. Sure. Here's what they found. Like, they found cortical drive increased in a 24-hour period after an adjustment. What does that mean? That means that the person got a little bit of a strength increase. Now, that doesn't mean that they became the Incredible Hulk, but what it does mean is that there was like a benefit there. So here's how you can apply that now to conversations in your practice, and how I would do it. You can use it this way. You could use it this way. And here's where I think that could help research in the future. Or here's where that ties into this other thing that we talked about that I remember from like 6 months ago, and how it leaves a breadcrumb trail. And that's basically how we go about it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. I mean, thanks for doing that and taking all the time to,
my pleasure,
to do it. I mean, obviously it's making an incredible impact. I think I got one last one for you. Bella, my partner, she always likes to ask, what would you say is chiropractic's message to the world?
Simple question with a very deep and complex answer, right? I love it. So I think chiropractic's message to the world is that you have everything you need to live a healthy, productive, and happy life with what you have inside of you. And chiropractors help people by ensuring that they're able to live their best life, as they live the best life they can for as long as they can, by being a partner in your health over the course of your life. So that's a little bit generic, but I would say that without really having a refined one-liner, that's what I would hope for.
Well, makes sense, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, thank you so much for letting us go deep.
My pleasure. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you for being an open book and sharing how you feel, what you're doing, what your next steps are. I really appreciate you taking the time that you have to be on the show, brother. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good, brother.